Hello, everyone. My name is Victoria Longo, and thank you for joining me for this week's Friday at 5. For those of you who are just joining, this is a series that I started several weeks ago to talk about all aspects of relationships. So I have touched on things such as judgments and choosing a partner and expectations. And so you can go back and catch up on some of those prior videos. In this week's video, I'm going to be talking about compromise in a relationship. And this is something that I have addressed with people over the years, something that I've learned for myself. And so relationships are about compromise, right? That's what I was always told, is you have to, compromise for your partner. What I realized is that compromising didn't make me happy, and it didn't actually help my relationship. So what I mean is that when I compromised on things that I wanted, I ended up resenting my partner in the long term. Now, there's different levels of compromise, right? So obviously, if he is a huge basketball fan or football fan, and we are going out on a Friday night and he wants to go see a game and I want to go to the movies, we're going to compromise, right? That's not such a big deal. This week we do this, next week we'll do what I want to do. No harm, no foul. When we start compromising on whether we want to have kids, whether we have been in a long-term relationship and we want to get married, or we don't want to get married, but our partner wants the opposite. When we start compromising on where we want to live and how we want to live our life, that's where we should not be compromising for somebody else, because that is where resentment is going to build. Frustration is going to build. You're going to be taking it out on your partner, and it's going to damage the relationship. And I lived through this. I tend to be a very social person. I have a lot of friends. I like to go out and socialize. I don't like to sit home. I'm not really one to sit and watch movies all the time. Not one to really play any video games. So not really a homebody. But my ex-boyfriend was. He loved video games, and I encouraged him. I bought him pretty much every gaming system that would come out and new games. It was an easy gift for all the different holidays. Buy him a new system, buy him some games. And he was happy. It didn't take much. He was very shy. Did not like to socialize. He eventually did start coming around, but it was always very awkward, because then that's not his natural state of being, right? He's doing it for me. He's compromising to be there for me, for the relationship. But am I having a good time? Not really, because he doesn't know anybody. He's not comfortable enough to talk to anybody. They're asking him a question. He's looking at me to answer. And so it actually added a lot more stress to me, instead of just being able to go and enjoy myself. I'm worried about, is he having a good time? Does he know anybody? Does he know where the food is? Can he help himself? And of course he could, but these were things that were going through my mind, because we're in a relationship. We have to work together. We're partners. We compromise on things. And I learned that that's where we shouldn't in relationships. And I encourage anybody who is in a relationship to not compromise on yourself, on who you are as a person, on the things that bring you joy, on the things that your hobbies, everything that you like to do. Never, ever, ever compromise on that. Most of us do, because the relationship, and this is something I've talked about before as well, where the relationship is more important than the two people in it. And so we compromise to keep the relationship going. It doesn't matter if we're happy or not. That's just what we're supposed to do because we're in a relationship. We actually can't leave if we're not happy because society needs us to have a valid reason, a good reason, right? Somebody has to cheat or there has to be a scandal or an affair to be able to have permission to walk away from a relationship. We can't just walk away if it's not working. And I'm here to tell you, walk the fuck away if you are not happy and if you are compromising yourself, because the only person who's suffering is, well, actually so you are suffering because you don't get to be you. And also your partner, you don't think they know. No, most of us don't like change. We will do anything to not experience change. Even when things get really bad, we'll complain more, but we're not going to be courageous enough to actually choose something different unless it gets really, really bad. Or things get pulled away that we have no choice. So unless our partner says to us, you know what, I'm done, I'm walking away, then it's like, okay, now I actually have to do something. And most times people will remember the good times and beg and plead for their partner to stay in their lives rather than really looking at, were they a good fit in the first place? Were we really compatible? Because when you don't compromise on yourself, when you don't compromise on who you are as a person for a relationship, there aren't as many arguments. There's way more fun. There's just less drama all around because for what reason do you need it? There's nothing that's missing. You are who you are. You get to live your life as who you are. And I do believe that we were all born with very specific talents, interests. There are things that I have no idea why people would enjoy it because I am not one that can sit and, data analyze and figure out spreadsheets and percentages. But there are people who love that stuff and who geek out over it. I can't begin to understand it, but there are people who love it. And so there are people who are born with very specific interests, with very specific talents and dreams. And I really don't believe that we were put on this earth, that we were born to give that all up and suffer through a relationship with somebody for the rest of our lives, right? The song that I think of, and I've actually been hearing it a lot lately, oddly enough, is Paradise by the Dashboard Light by Meatloaf, where he really just wants to get laid, right? She doesn't want to without a commitment. So he agrees to marry her and they're both miserable. They're both waiting because neither one of them can walk away. They made this commitment, so they're going to honor it, even though they really can't stand each other. Why are you here? Why are you living if that's the life you have? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me because tomorrow is never guaranteed. All we have is today, and I've been exposed to a ton of death in my life, a ton of loss. So I am very much aware of the fragility of life. I'm very much aware that I might not wake up tomorrow. So all of these plans that I have, they might not happen. Right? So I have to take advantage of every single moment of every single day to create what it is that excites me and interests me. And do I have time for everything every day? No. I bought blank canvases probably a year ago to take up painting again, which was something I really enjoyed. Still haven't made the time for it. But that's not something that if I died tomorrow, I'm going to be like, man, I should have painted that masterpiece. That's not one of my biggest things because there's other hobbies that I do. There's other things that I'm interested in that I prioritize the time that I have. And I take advantage of the time that I have to pursue what enjoys me or what I enjoy. And not worry so much about all this other stuff. And I've also set up my life to be this way, right? I actually found a partner that honors who I am, that understands that I might have to say no to him, to going to do certain things because I am trying to create something else right now. And this is a period in our lives where we're both actually super busy creating and fulfilling on what we love individually, right? Now, does that mean we don't love each other? Not at all. But it does mean that I understand and he understands those interests are pulling us apart at the moment, and there's not a lot of time to spend together. So we are actually, the time that is spent together is really precious and really special, and not spent wasting it on, arguing on something stupid. Now, I know there's many couples that spend every waking moment together, or maybe not every waking moment. They wake up together, they go to work, and then they come home and they have dinner together, and then they, one falls asleep on the couch, and then they go to bed, and, they wake up the other one to come to bed, and that's how they live every single day. And I look at those couples, and I know there's arguments. I know that there's really not a sense of purpose of being here. It's like an existence, right? You're existing with your partner. And if that is what really makes you happy, then by all means, continue doing it. But if you feel like there's something more you want, or you're dissatisfied, then maybe start playing with, what would actually be a contribution. What did you give up or compromise for the relationship long ago that maybe it's time to bring it back in? Maybe it's time to start, painting again, or I don't know, playing with music or playing an instrument, whatever the case may be. So, again, all of us that were born have different interests. So when we start compromising them, we start losing pieces of ourselves. And that's where we end up taking it out on our partner, because it's the relationship's fault that we aren't ourselves anymore, right? And that we aren't enjoying ourselves, and that we aren't living the life that we thought we would. And while we're stuck doing the same old all the time, right? So most of us probably don't acknowledge that it is the relationship's fault, but we just automatically take it out on our partner because they're the ones that are there. And whether we consciously blame them or not, they're the reason that everything changed. Even though we also made the choice to let go of the things that we used to love, and let go of who we were for the sake of the relationship. Right? So I think it's super, super important for people to never lose that. Never lose who you are. Never lose your interests, your hobbies, what lights you up. To always be you. Always have the space and the freedom, and to be with somebody who honors and allows that. It has that space of allowance, because I will tell you, there's so much more self-confidence that can come with being with a partner that allows you for who you are, the good, the bad, and the ugly, than there is being with a partner who you have to cut off pieces of yourself to try to get the relationship to work, right? And so then you're always questioning, like, well, if I do this, is he going to get mad? Or if I do that, is she going to understand? Or do I have to explain myself? And so that tears away at your confidence. And it really breaks you down, because that's not, I don't believe that was how we were born to live our lives. It's just what we've been taught. It's what we teach by example, because most of our society has been in these types of relationships and has portrayed it as the way to do things, right? And so we mirror what we see and we mimic what we see. And so when we see people who maybe are really in love after a long period of time together, we're suspicious of it and we don't trust it and we think it's just an act, or there's no way they could be that way. And there's all these judgments we put in, because if we were actually to admit that maybe they were happy, maybe they did love each other, admitting that would actually acknowledge that we gave that up and that we settled. And that's a hard pill to swallow. So a lot of times it's easier to judge, and this goes across the board. A lot of times it's easier to judge other people who are doing certain things, because if we actually took the time to acknowledge that it's true and that it was possible for them to be together for 50 years and still, want to touch each other and be around each other and enjoy each other, then, acknowledging that just means that we didn't have that, and it was possible. And I do believe that's possible for everybody. I do truly believe that there is somebody out here for everybody. Now, I've also learned over the years that there are people who are there for a short period of time. They're there to contribute something to you. They're not meant to be long term, but we attach to them and we project all of these dreams onto them, and the relationship lasts way longer than it should, when it was really only meant to contribute for a very short period of time. Now, I know I have done that 100%, where I have met people and it's like it just fits and it feels right, and when it didn't, I refused to acknowledge that. And it was like, no, this was so good. Why could it be taken away? And I'm never going to find anybody else, and this was it. And it's really not true. I was trying to hang on to something that really had served its purpose in my life. And when I honestly looked at that, and I was like, oh yeah, he was there for this, and it was amazing. And I knew when it was time to walk away. I knew when it was time to say goodbye. But society didn't like that, right? And I didn't want to look bad. I had to make it work. I had to sacrifice. I had to stick it out. I had to compromise. I had to do everything to make the relationship work. And it's such horseshit. It's such horseshit. So I think, we've just been portraying it the wrong way. And that if we stop compromising ourselves, if we stop compromising who we are, we can actually find somebody that has the same interests, that has the same quirks, that has the same, geekiness, weirdness, whatever it is, and is going to appreciate that about you, so that you no longer have to feel ashamed about it and hide it and question if you're normal, right? So, compromise on things, compromise on movies and basketball and sports and food and where to go to eat. Never, ever, ever, ever compromise on yourself. Okay, and so I leave you with that. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please be sure to hit the like button. Please subscribe to my channel so you get notified when I drop in a new video. It's every Friday at 5. I might do a few more. And if you are interested, I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, so feel free to follow me there as well. Thank you all, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.